You know, everyone keeps telling me that Mario is a plumber, but to be honest, I barely ever see Mario do any actual plumbing. Instead, I see him do all sorts of other jobs, like being a chef, an athlete, a construction worker, or most notably, a doctor. Dr. Mario is a series that nobody talks about, but is just popular enough that it's somehow gotten an entry on almost every Nintendo system ever. I'm not sure how or why Mario got a PhD, but it does make for a really fun puzzle game. I recently did a video on one of these games, so I thought it might be cool to go through every Dr. Mario game and rank them from worst to best. This list will be based on how fun the games are, as well as how much content there is to play around with. So without further ado, let's go! 11. Dr. Wario. Honestly, this barely counts as a Dr. Mario game. This is unlocked as a side mode in WarioWare Mega Micro games for the Game Boy Advance. At first, this might sound kind of cool, but then you play it and you realize it's the most bare bones version of the game out there. The fact that you're playing as Wario does nothing to spice up the gameplay. There's no wacky modes or options. Hell, they actually removed some options, like being able to switch what kind of music plays in the background. I will cut this game some slack as, again, it's just a side mode inside a larger game, but if we're counting it on the list, it's definitely the worst one. 10. Classic NES series, Dr. Mario. This was part of a series of old NES games that got ported to the Game Boy Advance. Out of all the games they could have picked to bring back from the NES, Dr. Mario was a strange pick, especially since 1 year later, we got a far better version of the game, but we'll get to that later. This is essentially the exact same game as the original, but now it looks worse and there's no two-player mode. That may not seem like much, but the lack of options does make this version worse in my opinion. Plus, even if this was the exact same game, I don't know why you'd want to play this version compared to playing it on your TV. 9. Dr. Mario Game Boy. It's Dr. Mario, but on the Game Boy. Who would have guessed? I'll keep this one brief, as there's not really much to analyze. You may be confused on why this is higher than the classic NES version, and that's because it actually has a two-player mode. You need a link cable to make it work, but the option's still there. I know the lack of color might make it hard for some people to tell the difference of the pills, but I've personally never had a problem with it. I also find something very charming about how the game looks visually, and I can't quite put my finger on it. 8. Dr. Mario NES. Despite being towards the bottom of the list, I still think the original Dr. Mario holds up pretty well. You throw red, yellow, and blue pills onto the screen and try to line them up with the many viruses until they're all dead. Each time you beat a stage, the next one starts with more viruses and you keep going until you screw up. There's also a little bit of customization before you start playing. You can change how many viruses are at the start, the speed of the falling pills, and the type of music playing in the background. You've even got this cool two-player mode where two players compete to clear out all the viruses on their side first. It's honestly surprising how fun this game can be. It's up there with the best puzzle games like Tetris and Puzzle League. 7. Dr. Mario Express. Fun fact, this Dr. Mario game actually originated on the Nintendo DSi as part of the DSiWare lineup of games. Now, I don't own this thing on the actual DSi, but I was able to try it out on the 3DS, and this is lame. Don't get me wrong, the game is fine, it's still Dr. Mario at the end of the day, but there's nothing special about it. The only thing this version has that the others I've listed so far don't is that instead of having a two-player mode, you have the option to face off against a computer. I like how the computer players are actually smart and put up a decent fight, and I prefer this over a two-player mode since you're not forced to have a second person. The only reason Dr. Mario Express is above the other games so far is by technicality, but honestly, this is probably the laziest game in the franchise. 6. Tetris and Dr. Mario. I love a good old game of Tetris, so seeing it bundled in with Dr. Mario is really cool to me. Of course, you all know Tetris, random blocks fall from the top, and you have to stack them together to create lines so they disappear. And then on the other side, you've got Dr. Mario, which is pretty much the same as all the other versions, but the visuals got a huge upgrade from the NES and Game Boy. Both games have the same modes, single player and versus. However, there's also this third option called Mixed Match, where two players alternate between Tetris and Dr. Mario and try to get the most points before time runs out. It's a really cool idea, and makes putting both games in one package a lot more interesting. 5. Dr. Mario and Puzzle League. And here's another collection of 2 games. Instead of Tetris, Dr. Mario is bundled with Puzzle League. Puzzle League is an extremely fun game. Hell, I'd even say it's on par with Tetris. The gameplay is super addicting, and there's a handful of modes to check out as well. As for the Dr. Mario half of the package, it's mostly all the same stuff we got in the SNES and Game Boy versions, but now there's a couple new settings options, as well as a few more ways to spice up the gameplay. I'd say the only downside is that the compressed music and sound effects just aren't appealing in the slightest. Like, seriously, just listen to the title screen music. Oh, Jesus, that's awful. 4. Dr. Mario Online RX. Does anybody know what the RX in the title means? Like, seriously, let me know down in the comments. This game was exclusive to the WiiWare series, and once again, is a really good time. The main Dr. Mario mode is the same as always, but now we have 2 brand new features introduced in this game. The first new mode is Virus Buster. It's much slower compared to normal Dr. Mario, and you use motion controls to move and rotate the pills. The controls actually aren't that bad, and it's a nice change of pace from the regular gameplay, but the biggest new addition was the ability to play online. I haven't gotten the chance to try this out, and it sadly doesn't work anymore, but from what I've heard, the online play worked really well. 3. Dr. Luigi. Sorry if my Luigi bias gets the best of me. This game was released in honor of the Year of Luigi, so you know it's going to be good. The main new mode in Dr. Luigi is Operation L. It's the same idea as regular Dr. Mario, but now the pills are shaped like L's. This does make the game more interesting as you have an extra layer of pills to deal with, but it's not much harder than normal Dr. Mario. Speaking of, you still have the option to play normal Dr. Mario with Retro Remedy, and just like Online RX, you have Virus Buster and online play as well. Virus Buster is now played with the gamepad, and you drag pills with the stylus. I actually really like this mode, and it's definitely better than the one on the Wii. And again, I haven't been able to play online, but from what I've heard, it was smooth when people were actually playing this game. 2. Dr. Mario 64. I usually think Mario games on the Nintendo 64 can be overrated, but even I can't deny that this game is excellent. First thing to mention is the amount of content. There are so many different modes and ways to customize the gameplay. You've got classic Dr. Mario, versus mode, and flash, but we also have marathon, where viruses keep moving up the screen until you eventually screw up, score attack, where you have to get the highest score possible in a limited amount of time, and even a full-on story mode. The story mode isn't anything special, it's basically just playing Dr. Mario over and over against harder opponents, but just the fact we have a mode like this at all is awesome. Top that off with the ability to have 4-player multiplayer, and you've got one of the greatest games in the series. The only thing that can top this is 1. Dr. Mario Miracle Cure. I can't believe a game on the 3DS made the top of the list, but here we are. This is pretty much the ultimate Dr. Mario package. You've got classic Dr. Mario, Dr. Luigi, and Virus Buster, and all of them are insanely customizable. The main new feature for this game is Miracle Cure, where eliminating viruses will fill up this meter and give you a special item to help keep you in the game. We may not have a proper adventure mode this time, but instead we have Miracle Cure Laboratory, which contains a bunch of pre-made challenges to complete, all with ranging difficulties. I actually prefer this over adventure mode as it provides more variety, and it's just nice to have a giant checklist of things to do. The only thing I'm bummed this game doesn't have is 4-player multiplayer like Dr. Mario 64, but at least we have local and online play, which is great. I'm not sure what else to say. This is just a fantastic puzzle game, and in my opinion, is the best Dr. Mario game of all time. And before we wrap up, I wanted to give a quick honorable mention to Dr. Mario World for mobile devices. This was a Dr. Mario game specifically designed for phones, and you'd go around this world map playing different levels and winning coins to unlock new characters. The game introduced some pretty cool gameplay concepts, and you could even play online and do battles with other players. The game was shut down in November of 2021, and it's a shame because I actually really enjoyed my time with it. Sure, the loot boxes and other gacha mechanics were a bit ridiculous, but I'd honestly say it was one of my favorite Dr. Mario games. If I had to rank it just off memory, I'd probably place it between Dr. Luigi and Dr. Mario 64, so even though I can't play it, I still wanted to mention it in some capacity. Dr. Mario may not be the most exciting series of all time, but that's okay. They're just fun, simple puzzle games to have between the more grand Mario games. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then make sure to give it a like, and let me know down in the comments which one of these games is your favorite. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe button with notifications on, so you'll know when I post more videos like this. Have a great day, stay safe out there, and I will see you in the next one.